To solve this data sufficiency question, we'll consider each statement separately first, then together if necessary. Before the statements, let's take a look at the question. We're asked, in the triangle above, does a squared plus b squared equal c squared? A squared plus b squared equals c squared we can recognize as the Pythagorean theorem, which holds true only if this triangle is a right triangle. Now we're not told that this is specifically 90 degrees, otherwise we'd have a little square here. It may look it, but that's a little bit deceiving. So we're essentially interested in whether we can answer if this holds. And to answer if this holds means that is our right triangle a right triangle. So this is the Pythagorean theorem. And we're after whether this whole thing is a right triangle. If it is a right triangle, then the Pythagorean holds, and we can go ahead and say, yes, that is true. So when we consider each statement individually, we're looking whether we can determine if this is a right triangle or not. So let's go ahead and let's consider statement 1. We'll work over here just for space. So for statement 1, we're told A equals B. Now, if A equals B, that implies that X is equal to Y, because our triangle would then be isosceles. So these two angles would be equal, these two sides would be equal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a right triangle. So we can consider a couple different cases. If X equals Y, and they're both 45 degrees, then yes, this last angle here would be 90 degrees, and it would be a right triangle. But if we had X and Y equal, say, 44 degrees, then this would not be a 90-degree angle that's left, because the sum of all of our angles has to equal 180 degrees inside of a triangle. So in this case, we would not have a right triangle. Since we can't decide yes or no of right triangle, it kind of depends on the values of those angles, we can't determine whether this holds or not. Remember, right angle implies Pythagorean theorem, which implies this. So since we can't determine definitively yes or no for right triangle or not, this statement alone is not sufficient. So we can eliminate answer choice A and D, leaving us with B, C, or E. To determine which answer choice we will choose as our final answer, we'll have to go ahead and consider statement 2. So let's go ahead and clear our board, and we'll consider statement 2 now. Statement 2 says that X is equal to 47. So if this angle is 47, there's no way we can determine if the triangle is a right triangle. For example, if Y is equal to 43, then the remaining angle would be 90 degrees, and that would hold. So it would be a right triangle, and the Pythagorean theorem would be true. However, if Y is equal to, say, 44 degrees, the remaining angle would actually be 89. And this would not be a right triangle. So again, we run into a similar scenario as we did with the first statement, that it kind of depends on what Y actually is here. So this statement alone is not sufficient, since we can't determine yes or no definitively to a right triangle. So we can actually eliminate answer choice B, since statement 2 alone is not sufficient. That leaves us with C and E to choose from. So in order to choose our final answer, we're going to need to combine the statements. So let's go ahead and let's clear our board. And we can go ahead and combine our statements 1 and 2 together. Considering the two statements together, since the triangle is isosceles and x equals 47, that means that y is also 47. So we have the relationship that x equals y, which equals 47. Then the remaining angle, let's call it z for now. We know that 47 plus 47, that's 7. 47 plus 47 plus z would equal 180, because the sum of all those angles needs to equal 180. And if we isolate z, we'd get that extra angle would end up being 86. So this actually would not be a right triangle. And if it's not a right triangle, we can then conclude that a squared plus b squared is definitely not equal to c squared, because that's a relationship that only holds for right triangles. We can definitively answer the question. The answer to the question would be no, they are not equal. So since we can answer the question, these statements together are sufficient. Even though the answer to the question is no, we can still answer the question. So those statements together are sufficient. We can eliminate answer choice E, and our final answer would be answer choice